Welcome to Tales Beyond Threads. Dive into the most intriguing Reddit stories from across the internet. Sit back, relax, and let the stories unfold. Am I the butthole for getting a restraining order against my ex-girlfriend and then enforcing it, causing her problems? Sorry for the throwaway, I only have Reddit for the parenting subs to help me with the raising of my 3 siblings, and I don't want this linked back to me, as I am a private person. I 28M am currently taking care of my 3 younger siblings. 12M, 12F, 16F since my sister 16F was born. Our parents are nowhere to be found. I don't know if they are in the same state or even in America at the moment, dead or alive, and I don't really care. I don't know what happened, but when my first sibling was born, everything was passed on to me, and the same with my other siblings as soon as they were born as well. Long story short, and to give a basic description, I am mom and dad to my siblings. I have taken care of them all of their lives. They know I'm their brother, but sometimes slip up and call me dad. Our home became completely toxic, and when I turned 18, I moved out into a small 2-bedroom apartment and took my siblings with me. I worked myself to the bone with taking care of my siblings, working in school. It took me longer than I would like to admit, but I finished school and got a good job. I eventually saved up enough and bought a house for me and my siblings 4 years ago. I took the legal steps after I got my house, and my siblings are now legally in my custody. I did get in a bit of trouble from the social worker because I never reported anything, but all legal matter have now been settled. The reason for me posting here. A couple of months ago, like 4 or 5 I think, I broke up with my then girlfriend of 1 year. My little sister got her period and I helped her through her first period. She got cleaned up and then I explaining everything in detail to her. My now ex completely blew up on me and called me a pig, creep, pedo, and a bunch of other things. My sister 12F just ran out of the living room and locked herself in her room. I told my ex to leave my house. It took me almost the full day to get my sister to talk to me, and she only did after my other sister 16F came home from a sleepover for her to talk to me. My sister 16F helped a lot by also explaining that I did nothing wrong. She even told my sister 12F that I helped her through her first period and that she is lucky because she now has 2 people to help her, me and her 16F. My ex did come back to my house, but I told her we were done and kicked her out again. The problem was that she started to follow us around, stalking us. Every store I went into, she all of a sudden was there. If we went to the park, she was at the park. I did block her and made sure that she was blocked on all of my siblings' phones as well, but we did start to receive phone calls and messages from other numbers that was clearly her trying to excuse her actions with a sob story. This went on for a month until she tried to sign my little brother and sister out of school one morning, after I dropped them off with a fake permission letter. Luckily, the receptionist called me and I was able to stop her from signing my siblings out of school. That is when I filed for the restraining order. I got all the evidence, photos, messages, calls, everything, and we got the restraining order. Me or my siblings running into her at places dropped considerably. She has violated the restraining order a couple of times since then, and when I went to the police they told me they couldn't do much as it can't be proven that she is doing it deliberately, and when we run into her, she doesn't stop us, she just continues on her way, or leave wherever we are at. I don't know how she knows where we are all the time, but I have seen her multiple times, even when I change my schedule for when I do things, change the stores where I buy groceries, shopping, everything. Recently the house next to mine got put on the market for rent and geese who want to rent it. I noticed her showing up to the house with a real estate agent to look at the house. She came up to me with a smile and said, "I guess we will be neighbors from now on." I went into the house and showed the real estate agent the restraining order and then called the police. This time they took me seriously and my ex was arrested. My ex lost the house as the company is refusing her business, and the agent has given a statement to the police that my ex has asked specifically to rent the house next to mine. My ex was arrested but not imprisoned and only had to pay a fine. I am now receiving a bunch of calls and messages calling me in a shoal for destroying my ex's life. She is being evicted from her apartment, same rental company. She might lose her job as she can't find a place to stay within her budget and possibly has to move back in with her parents living in a different state. Her own sister and friends are refusing to help her. Don't really know why they don't want to help her, but I don't see that as my problem as long as my siblings are safe. Some of my own friends are calling me in a shoal because me enforced the restraining order and causing my ex unnecessary problems, as she is really no threat to me, and I am now being vindictive. Edit: I appreciate everyone telling me about an old post made by my ex. Yes, that is about me and my situation. I wasn't aware she posted and not really happy that she did, but I can't do anything about that now. She was a lovely woman when I got to know her, and when we started dating, she got along with my siblings until the morning she blew up at me for trying to help my sister with her first period. I don't know if she was acting or what happened, but she completely flipped after that. I also now know why her sister and some of her friends are refusing to help her L. That is her own doing the same with the situation she is finding herself in. Regarding her post, I will never take her back. That will not happen. My siblings are my priority. She is deranged if she thinks that I will ever take her back or even consider it. Regarding some of my friends that are saying I'm taking things too far and being vindictive. I didn't mention it in my post and didn't really want to make it a gender issue, but the friends who are saying I'm going too far being vindictive and that she is no real threat are also women, I will have a conversation with them and explain everything in detail to them again. If they still don't agree with my actions, I will cut them off. The only reason I'm giving this chance to them is because they have helped a lot with my siblings, especially my sisters, when I came to advice. Great job, exactly how this needed to be handled. Yup, in a way he was lucky she tried to rent that place as it made it obvious to authorities what she was doing. Am I the butthole for considering divorce after my wife and her family broke my trust? My wife, Emily, and I have been married for 5 years, and up until recently, I thought our relationship was rock solid. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but nothing that ever made me seriously question our future together. That changed 2 weeks ago when I discovered something that has shaken me to my core, and now I'm contemplating divorce. Emily comes from a very close-knit family, which I admired at first. Her parents and siblings are always around, often unannounced, but I didn't mind because family is important to her. I tried to be understanding, even when they would offer unsolicited advice or subtly criticize how I do things. I figured it was just part of being married to someone with such a tight family bond. However, about a month ago, I started noticing that Emily was acting a bit strange, more secretive than usual, hiding her phone whenever I walked into the room, whispering during phone calls, and making excuses to leave the house alone. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off, saying she was just planning a surprise for me. Last week, while she was out shopping, I received a message on Facebook from a mutual friend, linking me to a private group chat that Emily had apparently forgotten to log out of on our shared laptop. What I saw in that chat devastated me. Emily, her parents, and her 2 sisters were discussing an elaborate plan to convince me to sell our home, my childhood home, left to me by my late parents, so that we could buy a new house closer to her family. They were even talking about ways to manipulate me into thinking it was my idea, playing on my emotions about starting a family soon. The most gut-wrenching part. They were mocking me, calling me gullible and too attached to the past, saying that I wouldn't even realize what was happening until it was too late. Emily was actively participating in this, agreeing with their every word. I confronted Emily that night, and she didn't deny any of it. She tried to justify it by saying she thought it was in our best interest to be closer to her family, especially with us planning to have kids soon. She claimed that they weren't trying to hurt me, but rather trying to do what was best for our future. I told her that if she had just talked to me about it directly, I might have considered it. But the fact that she was plotting behind my back with her family, making fun of me in the process, felt like the ultimate betrayal. I asked her how I could ever trust her again after this. She apologized profusely, saying she made a mistake and would never go behind my back again, but I'm not sure if I can believe her. Now, I'm seriously considering divorce. The thought of staying married to someone who could deceive me so easily and who had no problem involving her entire family in the deception makes me sick to my stomach. But at the same time, I'm questioning whether I'm overreacting. Emily insists that she had good intentions, and her family is acting like I'm the one being unreasonable by even thinking about leaving her over this. So Reddit, am I the asshole for considering divorce over this? Or are my wife and her family the real buttholes for conspiring behind my back? Not the butthole, she could have been actual partner and speak with you how she wants to move close to her family. Instead, she is sneakily trying you to force you out of your family home and sell it. Be careful, since everyone is in her side and telling you are wrong. She might want to get pregnant to get her plan through. Hope you took screenshots of that. Disgusting behavior from all of them, immature and huge deception. Correct me if I'm wrong, but an inherited house will stay with him if they ever divorce. If he sells it and buys a new one, then she would get at least half in a divorce. Maybe that's the plan. My wife divorced me 5 years after making me get a vasectomy. Ida for not being on speaking terms with her anymore. My ex-wife 32F and I 32M finalized our divorce proceedings last year. We had a kid when we were 21, we got married at 25, and at 26, my wife made me get a vasectomy because she did not want any more kids. I was hesitant because I always wanted more kids, but for the sake of our marriage, I decided to get a vasectomy, and my wife was very happy about it. However, our marriage went through its ups and downs, and we both amicably decided on a divorce because we weren't compatible. Even after the divorce, we were on good speaking terms and we were good friends. However, a month after finalizing our divorce proceedings, I went to the doctor to check if my vasectomy could be reversed, and after evaluating everything, the doctor told me it couldn't be reversed. I was devastated and really regretted listening to my wife many years ago, who made me get this vasectomy, and who also then divorced me later. I took a week off work because I was really struggling with this news and I built up a lot of resentment towards my ex-wife, but for the sake of our son, I acted like everything was normal. However, I decided a week later after speaking to my sister that I needed a clean break from my ex-wife and to cut off all communication with her, even though she was my son's mother. My sister let my ex-wife know. The co-parenting arrangements would still be the same and I would drop and pick up my son, but if my ex-wife attempted to even say anything or speak to me, I would go to the courts and the co-parenting arrangement could then become extremely complicated. Any further communication with me would be via my sister. It's been almost a year since this arrangement, and my son asks me occasionally why I don't speak to his mom anymore. He told me he's seen his mom crying many times, especially after I drop him off, and when he asks her about it, she says nothing. My sister tells me my ex-wife is very remorseful about it, and if she could take it back, she would, and she's asked multiple times if we could at least communicate normally because she misses talking to me. But I will never go back on it, especially as I've now been dating my current girlfriend for a few months, and we're becoming serious. Am I the butthole? While can't get it reversed isn't technically true, the procedure is advertised as permanent for a reason, and the docs who do the snipping rarely do reversals. It's infinitely more complex to fix than cut and burn it. It only has a 50% success rate. Yeah, when I get my vasectomy, the doctor was sussing me out to determine if I realized the potential permanence of getting it done, and I said something like, yeah, I know these often aren't reversible, and I should treat it as such. And he was like, no, they often are reversible. That's the most common, but it's possible it wouldn't be. Also, he said that in the event it's not reversible, you could still have a biological child if you really wanted to. Your testes still produce the sperm, it's just the tubing that is severed, so they can just go into your testes and extract the sperm out and then use that in some kind of IVF way. Got 3 teachers fired. Hi, I 17F have been dealing with alopecia, really annoying patchy hair loss since I was 10, and in my country we have strict hairstyle rules for school. This included having to plait my hair into 2 if it was below shoulder length, which I was unable to do, because obviously I had bald patches. This weird rule meant that I had to get a letter from the principal and the governing bodies to allow me to wear a loose low ponytail, which barely covered my bald spots by holding my hairs in place, which was really stressful but manageable. On my first day of year 11, I went into school, really excited, I wanting to do my best. I'm a weird-ass nerd, in case you were wondering, only to find my class teacher, the section head, and my French teacher screaming at me for wearing a ponytail in front of my whole class. It took me a minute to process it, but I explained my situation and showed them the principal-approved permission letter. This, however, did not stop them from yelling at my face, and my class teacher proceeded to ask me to prove my condition by bringing my medical records. I brought my medical records the next day, including 2 huge binders filled with records. At the start of the day, I took them to my class teacher, who asked me to fetch the section head, which I did. They then started looking at my records like 2 professional doctors, for heaven's sake. Mind you, these weren't even science teachers. My class teacher accepted that I actually had the condition while the section head wanted to see it, and that sounded unbelievable to me. She then raised her hand and was going to touch my hair, but I stepped back as I thought that was extremely unprofessional and was invading my personal space. She was shocked for a minute, but then started screaming at my face, and I couldn't take it anymore, so I started crying and went to sit back down. After school, my dad came to pick me up and I started crying in the car and told him the whole story. I will never forget how fast he took a U-turn and went back into the school to talk to the principal, and of course she was shocked, and the 3 teachers were asked to apologize to me. Two of the teacher half-heartedly did, but the other refused to. All three of them were sent back to work, but my parents were furious, so they continued to fight until the next week, when all of my friends who saw this happening signed a petition and refused to work with them, which led to all three of them being fired. This also resulted in having a black mark in their records, so I'm guessing they won't be able to get a proper job for some time. I was quite relieved, but I admit I haven't actually been able to fully recover from that. Am I the butthole for not dropping it and getting them fired? The principal's note was sufficient. The teachers didn't need to know anything past that. The principal's note should have been enough for them. They deserve to be fired, and schools should show zero tolerance for bullying. Am I the butthole for not caring about my son and daughter-in-law being intimate at night in their own home? For context, everyone in this situation is South Asian, so elements of a very conservative mindset are involved here. My son 26M and Deal 25F were both raised in America. My husband 57M and I 54F have both lived in America for almost 20 years now, and my cousin 65M lives in our native country. My son and daughter-in-law got married 6 months ago. My daughter-in-law is an amazing person. She's the kindest, sweetest, and most loving person I know, and I'm really happy that my son is with her. She's also approximately 10 to 11 weeks pregnant with their first child. Recently, my cousin and his wife were visiting his daughter's family, who lives about 2 hours away from my son and daughter-in-law. They couldn't attend the wedding, and my son and daughter-in-law offered to have them over for a night. From what my son tells me, he only wanted to have them over for dinner to minimize the stress on daughter-in-law during the pregnancy, but my daughter-in-law insisted that they stay the night, and she promised to make them a nice breakfast before they left the following morning. I got a call from my cousin the morning after they left my son and daughter-in-law's home, and he said that his wife woke up late at night to get some water and bumped into my son in the hallway, and his face was covered in lipstick kisses. My cousin said that he and his wife didn't feel comfortable staying at their place because of this, and then went on to comment that I didn't raise my son right and called my deal a whore and some other nasty things. I spoke to my son and he corroborated my cousin's wife's story. I literally do not care about what my cousin's wife saw. My son and his wife were doing whatever they wanted to in their own home, and sure, they had guests, but clearly they didn't wake anyone up, and it was late enough that the reasonable expectation would be that any guests would be asleep. Secondly, rather than showing any appreciation for my son and Deal for having them over, or for my daughter-in-law's otherworldly cooking, they want to comment on a married couple doing married couple things, and degrade and insult my daughter-in-law. I told my cousin this, and he and his wife think I'm being ridiculous and not understanding his and his wife's feelings. He has told his siblings, my other cousins, and they're staying out of this conversation. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. It's not like your cousin was woken up in the middle of the night to the sounds of orgasmic screams shaking the bed. They only saw some lipstick on his face when they passed in the hall. Tell the Essex police to calm down. Not the butthole. Your cousin has issues. How the hell does he think that your son and daughter-in-law conceived their child? Thanks for watching Tales Beyond Threads. If you enjoyed the stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest tales. See you next time.